This is an AJ versus Jermaine Franklin post-fight review. And let me tell you why I am part of the minority who believes that it was a great performance by AJ under the circumstances. And let me tell you why. Number one, he was suffering back-to-back losses. The perception was that his confidence was rock bottom. Secondly, he was not only coming back from back-to-back losses, but 3 losses in his last 5 fights. And on top of that, he hadn't won in just under 3 years. That is the backdrop. That is the context that I give you all. And that's why I feel it was a great performance under the circumstances. But not just that, not just the context. Now, let's talk about the opponent. Now, prior to the fight on Saturday night, Franklin was still very much an unknown quantity. I know he was being made up to be this opponent that AJ would blitz, but I think that was the promoter and the promotion mismanaging the public's expectations. Now, if we look at Franklin and his last performance, it's the only performance that we can really judge him on. He fought Dillian Whyte, considered by many as a top 10 fighter, and in the eyes of many, he beat Dillian Whyte. So this is a fighter that was a live dog in the fight, a fighter that would have been roaring with confidence given his last performance. So I think the idea, the notion, the narrative that AJ was going to blitz him was somewhat unrealistic and put AJ under absolutely immense pressure, not least because the same boxing pundits were asking for AJ's retirement if he didn't blitz Franklin inside 6 rounds, as many of the boxing pundits were not only expecting but demanding. So I think therein lies the problem. The performance itself was a good one. He won all but 1 round, in my opinion. Yes, he was tentative at times, but I think you have to give Jermaine Franklin immense credit for being slick, for counter-punching incredibly well. Reminded me of Ruiz at times when he was throwing with AJ. But I think his counter-punching was great. And because it was so good, AJ was reluctant to commit to his attack. So I think you have to give Franklin a lot of credit. But that being said, AJ, in some people's eyes, didn't lose a single round. In my opinion, he lost 1, but that's 11 of 12 rounds against an opponent who, as recent as his last fight, arguably beat Dillian Whyte. That's my assessment of the fight, and I believe that we just didn't give Franklin enough credit. And I really believe that this result will look better as the years go on and as Franklin fights similar fighters and, in my opinion, beats them. I want to see Franklin in with the likes of Joe Parker. I want to see Franklin in potentially even with Dillian Whyte again. And after those types of fights, I think the public will appreciate Joshua's win against him, and a win that was a good one. And I didn't mention the new trainer. This was the 3rd trainer in 3 fights for AJ. And clearly they were trying out some new things, and clearly it's a relationship that needs to develop. But again, in those circumstances, a new trainer, 2 successive losses, 3 losses in 5 fights, without a win in nearly 3 years. You can't expect AJ to blitz a Franklin under those circumstances. I think that's really what it comes down to. So I say well done to AJ. You came back with a win, which is really what we want. And things can only go up for AJ now. He'll have more time with his new trainer, another fight hopefully in summer. And I, for one, hope there is Fury. I think that AJ's not going to get any credit for beating anyone of any mediocre standing. It needs to be a top-level fighter. And there are only 2 there that he hasn't fought, Fury and Wilder. So whilst many are predicting another step up build-up fight, for me it has to be Fury. And I think Fury is going to want AJ now. An AJ who is perceived to still be vulnerable, tentative, and an AJ who is, let's face it, only going to get better under Derrick James's tutelage. So he will want AJ now rather than later. But let's see what happens. But I say well done, AJ, and looking forward to the next fight.